Welcome to our webinar presented today by the League of Women Voters Climate Change Task Force Wildfire team. Thank you for coming. We're happy to see you. And if anybody's on the call that's not a member of the task force, you can email me at climatechange@lwvc.org. Today we have Dan Zales, who is chair of the wildfire team for the task force, and he is going to talk about the challenges that we see as the team has highlighted them and some of the bewildering responsibilities. So Dan, go ahead.
Thank you, Diz. So the purpose of this presentation is to overview for League members in California our long-term systemic wildfire challenges. It's been put together by the California League Wildfire team. The information we present here is the result of our collective discussions and experiences concerning wildfires. Please understand that there are likely to be other overview reports by other organizations on this topic, and we encourage you to do further research on your own. We hope that you come away from this presentation feeling that you have a better sense of the issues and challenges. The slides will be made available to you after the presentation. Not immediately after, but stay tuned on that. We come from, hold on, I have to run the slide here. We come from different league chapters, including primarily rural and primarily urban counties. We are always open to new teammates from other counties. Our team is under the umbrella of a series of teams handling different yet interrelated components of climate change in California. The other teams tackle electrification of buildings, sea level rise, food, soils, and agriculture, municipal climate action plans, and transportation. Increasing prevalence of wildfires is both a cause and effect of climate change. A hotter, drier climate increases wildfires. The wildfires then burn plants that sequester carbon, releasing that carbon into the atmosphere, where it adds to the greenhouse effect and contributes to the heat and dryness that contributes to even more wildfires. We have identified key issues for wildfire containment, including building resilience for greenbelt areas, yards, and buildings, plus a set of goals around reducing local community dependency on big regional grid infrastructure. Also, grid upgrading, management of blackouts, adequate fire insurance, plus improvements in infrastructure, firefighting capability, and how land development decisions are made. So it's pretty complicated. Now, we turn to who might be responsible for meeting these goals. Knowing who's responsible is critical because they are the ones who have the power to make or break changes needed to meet the goals. We break the range of responsible parties into three categories. The private sector, including private property owners, the public sector, and mixtures of public and private. Currently, property owners are responsible for resilience of their homes and gardens, and the public sector for reducing dependencies on big regional grid infrastructures and effective firefighting capability. Yet adequate fire insurance policies are the purview of insurance companies and their property-owning policyholders. Many of these goals may be handled by either public or private organizations. Greenbelt resilience would be handled by the state government on federal or state lands, for example, but handled by private or public-private partner organizations on land trusts, or totally private properties in the Greenbelt, such as camps and resorts. Grid upgrading, managing blackouts, and improved infrastructure, and in better land development decisions will be handled by a combination of whoever owns the land, coupled with whoever has jurisdictional authority over it. For example, planning decisions concerning new developments are the responsibility of developers held accountable to regulations imposed by the government agencies that have jurisdiction over it. Many policies and practices are being offered as ways to meet these goals. For greenbelt resilience, one solution is forest pruning, which reduces combustible vegetation, plus modifying zoning laws to resist further human development that brings more people into fire-prone areas. For property owners, there are solutions such as reducing combustible materials, pruning, removal of sick trees, and retrofitting homes to withstand damage from fires and wind-carried embers. Public education is critical to this, so there exist online resources that have been posted by different chapters of the FireSafe organization. For example, the website of the Marin chapter of the FireSafe organization has comprehensive, detailed information about what individual donors can do to become more resilient. And you could search on that. That's simply www.firesafemarin.org. For reducing dependencies on big regional grid infrastructures, microgrids are being explored and implemented in some communities. For upgrading grids, a strategy that is advocated is undergrounding the electric cable network, Yet undergrounding is very expensive and very difficult to implement, except over many years. So other strategies being implemented include simply trimming the greenery around the lines. Some are advocating government takeover of PG&E or other utility companies with the idea that it would stimulate quicker and more accountable grid improvements. Of course, these solutions have costs. The challenge for policymakers and change advocates is to explore how these cost burdens are best distributed among the involved parties. Better policies and practices can be secured by rezoning of the enactment of other laws and regulations, or the enactment of other laws and regulations. These have costs that must be paid for if they are ever to be implemented. Broadly speaking, costs may be met with higher taxes, budget redistributions, bond issuances, higher utility rates, higher insurance premiums, subsidies, or investments by grant dispensing public agencies on private foundations. There may be non-financial incentives as well, such as political pressure on government leaders or peer pressure. For example, neighbors pressuring other neighbors to make their properties more fire resilient. In our search for being part of the solution to the wildfire crisis, as California residents, we can ask some broad questions that would be applicable to any goal area. These include, what do laws and regulations require? Do gaps exist that deserve attention with new or modified laws or regulations? How is the public educated on the issues? And how can those efforts be improved? And what types of controversies and political conflicts get in the way? There are many things that you can do. Of course, you can do your own research, form a wildfire team in your local league, or join our California League statewide wildfire team. If you have interests in other climate change topics, you can join other teams within the Climate Change Task Force. And this is the group that I mentioned earlier, but here you have them in the slides written out. And this is what our wildfire team does. We have one phone meeting a month. We discuss state and local efforts broadly in the wildfire on that topic. We share via webinars for California-wide league members, and this is one of those examples of a webinar. And we are talking about some others, such as one on building fire resilience for what property owners can do. Something being discussed. We're also very interested in electrification in terms of grid infrastructure independence, microgridding. We're building supportive relationships through collaborations with appropriate groups. environmental groups, insurance companies, public agencies. There are movements among the insurance is a big deal right now. For example, there has been discussions of reframing how insurance is done so that they're actually called like collectives of called captive insurance policies, where it's a thought that's being explored among people interested in climate change and insurance issues, where insurance companies, where for in a nonprofit context, people in specific communities or groups of communities come together and pool their risk and pool their assessments and grant out and give out payments kind of according to broadly according to certain formulas. That's being explored. Given the insurance industry is definitely in a quite a pickle right now with all the wildfires that are happening. And then tracking rollouts of these initiatives as much as possible. So it's not as one thing is to follow legislation, to advocate for legislation that has met that has been endorsed by the state league, but also to look at what happens with implementation. Often legislation that's well intended ends up kind of not accomplishing its goals because of different problems in implementation at the agencies that are at the regulatory agencies, and funding is also a big deal too. So this is my email address. I'll give you a second to copy it down. If you want to become a member of our team, we actually have a meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Our monthly meeting for August, and you're welcome to join in on that. You just send me this email, and I'll send you the link to the Zoom, which I'm going to set up for it. And if not, and you decide a few weeks from now you'd like to join, that would be fine too. Anytime you're inclined or interested, just send me an email, and I'll put you in on it. Okay, so that's it for my presentation. I'd like to have some time now for people to ask questions. Now, if, as you see, there is a question panel that should be on your dashboard, and we don't have, people don't have speaking access, but if you have questions, now's the time to pose them, and then I'll see if I can answer them. I'll give you a minute to think through that. No questions yet, I don't believe, but I will.
There's a question.
Okay, yeah, I see
Um,
two questions. I see two questions now. I just opened up a window then and noticed two questions. Oh, now there's three questions. Okay, the questions are coming in. That's good. Let's take them one at a time. And I will try to answer them as best as I can. Some of the first question is, can the state legislate or mandating undergrounding? You know, I don't really. I would guess, and I'm going to ask Diz, if you have any thoughts about this, please join in. But I'm going to say that the state can pretty much theoretically legislate whatever it wants. Whether mandating undergrounding is the best policy is a toughie, because if the goal is to do something about mitigating wildfires, undergrounding might not be the best in terms of bang for the buck. It might take too long, might be too expensive. Maybe there's better ways for it to happen, or maybe it's something that needs to be decided at a local level. And so, you know, policymakers can kind of haggle at that, but I'm sure the state could do whatever it wants. Can you recommend a first resource for people to look at to learn about their home's fire risk and how to minimize the risk? Their local fire department? Okay. Yes, I would say look at, you know, if you live in a rural area, you want to look at your county. If you're in an urban area, then you look at your city's fire department. and to see what they're doing. And then you can also go to see if there's a fire safe organization that your community is a member of, or that's working with your community, and go to their, you can actually go to the fire safe, just do a Google search on fire safe and see if there's one in your community, in your county. But definitely fire departments are really useful places to go. Somebody can see the screen but has no audio connection. I don't really know why that's happening. Seems like that's only one person, so I'm sorry about that. What are the first steps a league can take to ensure that our county is fire safe? That's a really good question. I think public education is really important here. The league is good at, league advocacy work is focused a lot around public education. It's also focused around tracking legislation. I would say right now, given the pandemic, that unfortunately, as in most areas, wildfires are not going to get the attention they deserve in the legislature or on the ballot. There's only one Proposition 19 that even talks about wildfires. It's a revenue generator for wildfires through redoing kind of tax assessments on properties. And I would say you could study that and you could decide if you wanted to support that. As far as legislation, there were a whole bunch of legislations there's still some on the books, but it's around supporting insurance companies and also for fire mitigation, for protecting homeowners, and also around supporting property owners from in their efforts to giving them incentives and protect and help for building resilience on their in their homes and in their properties. But I would say, yeah.
Dan, if I could just chime in, remember that propositions support or oppose is done by the state. So,
That's right.
and
Yeah,
state
true.
legislation also. And I see that the question is really, what can the league do?
Yeah.
And I would suggest that the Marin County League has really excelled at this. And the person who led that effort is Nancy Bell. And I know, Vita, you know Nancy, or if you need the email, I'd be happy to share that. So you could walk through with her the steps that you need to do to ensure that your county is fire safe.
Yeah, thank you, Diz, on that. Yes, Marin is really good at really focused on this, and their Fire Safe Marin organization is really top notch. So I would say, yeah, public education and working in providing information to your communities about what individuals can do with their own properties and what they can do to advocate locally, talking with their fire departments as well. I think that's probably the best use of your time at this point. So let's see. Looking at the yeah. So what are the first steps to ensure that our county is fire safe? Yeah. A county is a collection of lots of properties and lots of people. Fires spread. Their fires are agnostic to to property lines and jurisdictions. So I would say the first thing a county needs to do is really coordinate its efforts. And you can look to see to what extent your county organization, which is facilitating the needed coordination between local property owners, the fire department, different municipalities in the county, and in a concerted effort, because everybody has to be part of the solution. I hope that answers that question. Let's see. I think Yeah, somebody, I think that's the last question. Diz, am I missing something? Let's see.
Nope.
Okay.
So I would,
Yeah, go ahead.
another resource, as you were about to say, is that CAL FIRE has good information. But
Yeah, that's right. CAL FIRE, which is the state jurisdictional authority, the state regulatory authority on wildfires. Thank you for that, CAL FIRE.
okay. And Angela
Yes.
Torres is a member of the team. And Angela, would you like to chime in on how the team works and what the responsibilities are and how you have interacted with it and if you recommend it?
Yes, I would recommend that the team continue its work. We have done and taken some very, very good steps at the direction of Dan. That is, following current legislation, which of course is very important. Although I have to explain that due to COVID, the legislature has been out on recess because of certain outbreaks. And so we have not been able to take a temperature on where the legislation will go by October. There are some bills right now in committees. And so it's obvious that when bills do go committees, the committees are studying those bills for their expertise and their mention of data and other information that might be relative to the legislation itself. Other things that our group has done is to try to reach out to our own communities that we live in, such as the counties. And for instance, in Placer County, after the wildfires of the previous years, has put together many fire-wise communities. And many of those communities have learned how to harden their areas, their residences, how to set up the proper setbacks and creating a defensible space. Those communities have been very educational in that those individuals that live in the rural parts of our county, which can start as near as Auburn, going up the hill into Tahoe, and including Forest Hill, have had several meetings with their local representatives in making sure that the Firewise communities are set up to educate the community. Our committee has identified many methods that are being taken by counties to ameliorate the containment of fires and the science behind wildfires and how to create the type of space that's needed in and around your residence. So I think our committee has helped a great deal in bringing in a broadened approach of what the state can do when they put all of their pennies into one bottle. I think together counties can organize based upon their geographical distances or geographical sensitivities to help regulate and control wildfires in California.
Thank you.
Great.
And thank you all for participating. We will be posting the information of the slides and, as you see, how to join the team and a recording of this on the League of California Climate Change Task Force website soon. And if you'd like to look up the legislation, you can do that on the Climate Change Task Force website also to see what legislation we have voted to support or oppose. So thank you so much, Dan and Angela.
Great.
And thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot for attending, and hopefully we'll talk to you, and hopefully some of you might join our committee. That would be great.
Bye for now.
Okay, bye-bye.